1:30?
Yeah.
Podcast time. We're live. I'm getting squared away. Probably should have started a second later, but hey, we're here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody listening. Good morning, everybody watching. Once again, you get to look at me in this seat today. I feel like it's pointed right now.
Yeah.
Just adjust my little shirt so you can't see my barrel of a belly.
The bulk season, is it coming to a close? Or are we still?
Dude, it's been closed since, well, it stopped in December 1, and then the holidays happened. But I've been pretty good this year. I've been pretty consistent in like 80 to 85% of my meals, and then enjoying. I say enjoying myself, like I don't enjoy the 80 to 85%, but still giving myself some room for leeway, like the other 15 to 20%. And so I'm seeing results that way. I think I'm going to start tracking some macros just to get.
I track my food. I track it all the way.
I saw some abs on Josh today. You were taking your sweatshirt off, and I was like, are those some abs? And you're like, no. I'm like, I think they were abs.
It's one ab that I have.
There were 6 of them there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
small changes executed over the course of a long time produce great results.
Yeah, man.
Write that down.
I don't even remember.
Actually, I can't take credit for that.
Remember.
That was actually a saying that my pastor at my church gave us last year at the beginning of 2020, not knowing what 2020 was going to bring.
Yeah. And then,
how prophetic.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Pastor.
Are you going to wear them at some point in the podcast? Are you just ready to go? Are you in sport mode right now with the sunglasses?
What's wrong with them?
Nothing. They're just on your head.
They're on my head, man. I had to get them. I had to have them today. It was so bright, all that running. So, but I did meet my vitamin D quota for the day. So you're supposed to get anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes of sunshine on your skin. At least, I think the rule of thumb is like over 50% of your skin. At least like between 10 and 20 minutes. Now, of course, there's a lot of it depends that goes into that, right? So, fair-skinned people, people from northern countries, people that are from, places where they don't have sunshine year-round like we do. Anyways, not to go down a rabbit hole. Gingers, for instance, have to be a little bit more careful. But in general, it's very helpful and beneficial to get sunshine on your skin. I'm
glad the weather worked out today because I know the last couple of days.
So beautiful.
Yeah, perfect weather for what we had planned. We did running intervals for those that don't know. And so it was the perfect weather for that today. It was really, really nice.
I was talking to some of the folks after class today. I was actually discussing this with Allie, and we were just talking about like the rest interval and how at least for me personally, I felt literally just recovered enough to go and push it again, to try to either get a little bit faster or stay consistent with the times this time. And it was interesting because after we did the 4, I didn't feel like I was going to be able to do 50% more than that. And then after we did the 6, I was like, man, I don't know that I could do 2 more rounds of that running and keep that same pace, and I actually was able to today.
And faster.
Yeah, and I got a little bit faster, but I was really paying attention to how I felt during that recovery interval. And so I gave a little sneak peek to what next week brings. And Natalie's ears perked up, and she's like, wait a minute, there's less rest next week. And I said, well, remember, you do week 1, week 2, week 3, so in week 4, if you get to that point, we drop it down to 90 seconds rest. But does it go back to 4 or 6 intervals?
6.
Okay.
So still quite a bit.
And with that reduced amount of rest, that's a big shock to the system.
It forces one to be a little bit more mindful with the speed they're running. Because like you said, 2 minutes, I think it's just enough to where you could run a pretty fast 200, and after 2 minutes, be ready to do it again, or something similar, or something slightly faster. 90 seconds, it's going to take a little bit more mindfulness, because if you run really, really fast, you're not going to be recovered after 90 seconds. You're not going to be able to do it again. And if you are, it's only going to last for 1.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that for repeated effort. So I think it's going to take people, like I said, a lot more brain power and thinking about, okay, like what speed am I going to run this, or what time am I going to make this 200 last, and to be able to be set up for success. So
Right.
you don't go like 40 seconds and then like 130.
Right. Yeah, because I could feel myself. The last 2 rounds that I did were my fastest, but in the 7th interval, I could feel like on the back stretch of one of the runs, like just mechanically, I was kind of coming apart a little bit. So I could feel my body making all these compensations because I probably still have enough like physical energy to push to get the same time, but mechanically, like this is what we talk about when we say your CNS is fatigued. So like the turnover and keeping your body, in a straight line and everything working right, I could just feel that breakdown on the 7th one. But it was on kind of like the back stretch, like the last like 50 to 70 meters, I could feel that. On the 8th one, I could feel it about the halfway point. Like I blasted down the first straightaway, made that first turn, and like about halfway through the turn, I was like, oh man. And you're just like holding on for dear life to just kind of make it all the way in.
Yeah.
But again, saying all that to say that I did actually, my 8th was just as fast as my 7th interval, but there's no chance that I could do that with 90 seconds rest.
I thought you were going to say with 10 intervals, and I'm like, well, you said that the last 2 weeks, so maybe we just...
We're not doing 10.
Yeah.
Surprise! You know what's funny? I did think about this the other day when we were talking about the surprise factor. I did think about this the other day when we did that 30-minute piece Monday.
Yeah.
And everybody, got done, and I remember this was years ago. There's been a couple instances like when I was coaching, I was like, all right, 2-minute rest, and we're gonna do something again.
Yeah.
If you just toss that in there and said, all right, we're actually gonna go for another 10 minutes, what would people do? And I was finishing up on the row, and I was looking around, I was like, these people would probably take you out back and shoot you if you did that.
Or like after the last interval, be like, all right, one more, and then
Yeah.
All right, so we have some upcoming events. Can you hand me a pen, please?
Yes, we have 2 pens here for you. Do you like the clicker? The Pilot G2 07? Do you know what the 07 stands for?
2007.
No, that's 7 millimeter point size.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you hand me that sticky note, please?
This one?
That one. Thank you.
Okay.
Josh is doing my dirty work because I'm ill-prepared.
Yeah.
All
All right, upcoming events.
Upcoming events. Okay, me. So we have, let me just write it down. 7:45. Okay, so upcoming events, we have the Snatch Clinic that is coming up this Saturday. So we're recording this on Wednesday, the 24th. Had to check my phone, make sure I got the date right. So that Snatch Clinic is coming up here in a few days if you listen to this in time. So that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with Coach Gene. And I can't tell you how many people have approached me and said, Mark, where's the weightlifting? We don't do enough weightlifting. Can we do more weightlifting? And then I say, you want to do the Snatch Clinic? And they go, do the Snatch Clinic. It's going to be awesome. Their last one was great. We received awesome feedback, and everybody loved it, and everybody benefited from it. So that's really cool. Do the Snatch Clinic on February 27th.
Boom. Saturday. That's this Saturday.
That's this Saturday. The Open, the 2021 CrossFit Open. Did you notice it's not called the Reebok CrossFit Games Open anymore?
I did, and I think I made this comment to you. The Nano X. Hold on, excuse me. Oh, I thought I was gonna bark. Anyways, the Nano X is the first Reebok Nano shoe that they did not have CrossFit anywhere on it.
Nice job, Glassman. Way to blow it. No, I'm just kidding. So with the 2021 CrossFit Open here starting in a few weeks, as CFG, we are doing it. So for those people that have had anxiety since June, we are doing it. And we're adding a philanthropy component to it. So in the past we've done intramural teams. This year, because it's only 3 weeks and because of the circumstances of COVID, we are just having fun doing the Open and adding a philanthropy component to it. So Josh, you wrote a really good blog post about it. So check out that blog post, register for the Open if you're interested. If you don't know what it is or you don't want to do it, there's probably no need to sign up for it. But if it's something you care about and you want to do, sign up for that, because we will be doing that on Saturdays. The philanthropy component, you could tell me a little bit more about it, but we're donating clothes, correct?
So yeah, I'll give a little bit of a backstory on this because I do think it's worth talking about because it is a few weeks before the Open. So several months ago, when we kind of had an idea that there might be an open that is going to exist, we didn't really know like what it would look like. For those that don't know, the open has actually changed dates multiple times in terms of, you know, what they said, you know, when it was going to be, how it was going to look, all that kind of stuff. And so that has always been the great unknown. One of the things that I did always know, though, is I wanted to leverage the power of the community and our gym to really make an impact into the local community, not just from a, hey, we do this fitness thing, but really to give back to them in the specific ways that need to be met. So something that is, you know, near and dear to my heart and to the gym's heart is just making sure that people have the basic needs to feel safe and secure. So that really boils down to, number one, feeling like you've got food so that you can nourish your body, and number two, feeling like, you know, I've got clothing that I can have on and stay, you know, cool in the summer and warm in the, I don't want to say winter because that's an insult to the people up north, but for us Floridians, you know, it was in the 40s this morning and it's been in the 30s, so, you know, for you to make sure that you can stay warm when it calls for it and cool when it calls for it. So, the other thing is I did not want it just to be a big celebration of just coming in, putting your head through the wall from a fitness component and then high five and leave. So I really did want to bring some sort of charitable component to it. Hence, fitness and philanthropy is kind of what we're unofficially naming the CFG Open this year. So here's what we're asking. For those of you guys that have been here for at least since the last Open, which ironically was about 18 months ago, we did the 2020 Open back in October of 2019. Think about that for a minute. You remember that we have done intramural teams, you've registered on the Cross the Games website, and what we're saying now is in lieu of that, so it was like $20 to register, in lieu of that, what we're asking is for you to just bring a donation. Some sort of clothing, don't overthink it, there's not sizes, we're not worried about genders, what do people need, it's just bring some clothing, clean out your closet, you know, put on the Eminem song, clean out the closet. Did anyone catch that? I know, Mark, you didn't. Cool. So clean out your closet, bring in some clothes, get some canned goods, drop them off, and then we are going to collect all that so that when a need arises in the community for food, for clothing, that we can give directly to somebody. So,
what's in your cash? I was singing Eminem's Cleaning Out My Closet.
That's what I said. I said, hey, put on the Eminem song, clean out the closet, and, you know, bring it up to the gym.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Yeah. Would you sing that as I'm sorry, Mama, or I'm sorry, Pamela?
I'm sorry, Pammy. That's what I say. I never meant to hurt you.
Okay, we're not going to sing anymore.
I never meant to make you cry, but tonight we're talking about gymnastics clinic. So anyway, that
was a great segue.
Yeah, there you go. So, fitness and philanthropy.
We're going to lose all 4 viewers. The most viewers we've ever had, and we're probably going to lose them now. If you're viewing, would you give us a thumbs up or a high five or maybe drop a comment in there if you like Mark's freestyling?
Anything. So that was really well said about what we're doing and more importantly why we're doing it this year when it comes to the Open and really just trying to make a bigger difference than just coming in and kicking the crap out of ourselves and leaving and taking a nap for the rest of the Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
So third and final announcement, unless we think of anything else by the time this is over. We have a gymnastics clinic coming up on April 24th. So we're just trying to get the gears turning a couple months early about this clinic. This is going to be put on by Coach Emily. This is going to be on a Saturday again from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So even if you want to come and take the Saturday class and then rest for an hour before getting started with some skills and drills, some effective things that's going to help you just be a little bit better at your bar gymnastics. And so we're thinking pull-ups and toes to bar.
Awesome.
So this is another thing people have approached me about. I know they've approached you about, like, hey, I want to get better at pull-ups and toes to bar. What can I do? Here's an opportunity to do that. And if you guys know Coach Emily, she was a competitive gymnast for a couple of years. She was a competitive cheerleader for a couple of years, and by a couple I mean a lot of years for both of those things. And so she kind of knows her way around a pull-up bar. And so she is the one to be teaching this clinic. She is excited about it, so that is on April 24th.
Awesome. Love it. Mark James taking a dig. Good thing you don't make a living singing.
Hey, thank goodness. I'd love to hear Mark sing. I've never heard Mark sing. I want to hear him sing.
I bet he could.
We take him to Taco Yolo, get some classic rock playing, and we get Mark singing.
I bet he would. Good morning to Mom. She just said good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good, we got some viewers. I'm glad they're enjoying it.
Cool.
Listening.
All right. That's it for me.
That's it. All right, so thanks for listening to this episode. No, so we're going to take it into listener questions now. Listener questions. Did you want to start it off?
Yeah, let me start it off because I want to give some background, some context into this first question. So the question is a little bit nebulous, if you will. So the question is, goals can change, right? And then a sub-question is, so what is a coach's role? So where this comes from is actually just branching off of like the final thing that we talked about in our last podcast episode, where we were talking about what do you need to do to prepare for the Open, how am I going to, prepare for things that I might at face value not be seeing in my programming. And one of the things that we talked about is making sure that when it comes to, and it doesn't even have to be the Open, it can be, for instance, the 5K trail run, it could be a local fitness competition, it could be a savage race, a tough mudder, it could just be anything that you are thinking you see that is of interest to you, that you all of a sudden get a wild hair about and decide that you want to do. So the reason that I say it dovetails really nicely off of last week's question is because one of the things that we talked about is understanding if it is in alignment with your true goals. And if the answer is no, then does it even matter how well prepared I am for that? And so one of the kind of a little bit back and forth dialogue that I had with somebody was, okay, maybe I didn't come into the gym specifically saying that I want to perform well at the Open, but I've heard about it, you guys make it seem so exciting, I've looked back at videos and photos and I've talked to other members and they tell me about the Open, or they tell me about XYZ thing. We're just going to use the Open as a placeholder because it's relevant, and it's in the forefront of people's minds, but all of a sudden they just say, no, you know what, I actually do want to participate in that, and that is something that I want to have fun doing. So one of the commentaries that I received was, yeah, well, that might not have been why they signed up, but like that's a goal now. So can't somebody's goals change? And so does that question and where I'm going make sense to you before I start answering it for the people?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask some questions, but
No, go ahead.
I didn't know if you wanted to go on first or if you plan on answering it. So I think the Open's a good example, especially because there was some dialogue going back and forth about somebody doing the Open. It doesn't. You said something earlier, and you said maybe doing the Open wasn't. We're just going to use that as the placeholder goal. Yep. But doing the Open isn't the reason somebody originally came into the gym, but somewhere along the lines, they decided it was something they wanted to perform in. So they have to start questioning whether it's true to their values, true to their original reason for coming in. What if they don't care about performing well in it, and they just kind of, like, they want to do it for the fun aspect? So, for example, like, we didn't train for that 5K run, but we went and did it.
Yeah.
Right? We won, it was a community event, but, like, I'll ask you, because I know you did it, how did doing that 5K run serve you?
That's a really good question.
Because I think it's analogous to what the Open might be for somebody, despite it being 3 weeks long. Despite and of course, like, you did that 5K run, you wanted to do your best.
Yeah.
It wasn't in your original plan. Like, I want to get better at the Alafaya Trails 5K, but like, why did you do it?
So, one of the things that I've really had to learn over the past 7 months as we've been getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the weeds with intentions behind fitness, why we do what we do, is I have to remember that, well, first, we all have to remember that we all have our own personal biases to things, and I'm not precluded from that. So my perspective and my bias on fitness is such that this is something that I've been coaching for about 20 years now, and I've been actually participating in fitness for, let's just call it 30 years or something like that, maybe 25 years, maybe 26 years. Let's just call it something like that. So where I am in my personal journey is such that I am not doing all this to serve getting better at fitness. And I talked about this months ago on another episode of the podcast, and I know it might seem, in the clouds, or it might not make sense to people, and that's okay, but I'm really just doing, let's just call it physical challenges, or participating in fitness because I can, and that's it.
Okay.
So let's just say, like yesterday, I came in early and I did that workout, not because I was here with friends, not because we're doing a progression and I feel like I need to do it to keep getting better and better and better. It's just part of my consistent routine. It's not to change body composition, it's not to decrease pain, it's not to get more energy, it's not to reduce stress, and not that there's anything wrong with any of those goals. But for me, it's just, this is what I do, right? So to your question about how did it serve me or what did I get out of it, I did it because I can do it. And I never want to not be able to do something physically that I want to be able to do. And the really long extended version is funny. I was just rewatching this, probably the first time I've ever rewatched something that we've recorded before. But I wanted to see how I languaged it several months ago. Was when I came back from my last trip to Asheville, and I was sharing that story of the 85-year-old-ish couple that were hiking and were hanging out on the slippery rocks, drinking Busch Light or something like that. And that's the ability that I think about in my head that I want to have 50, 60 years down the road. More immediately, the things that I don't want to be precluded from doing is just coming into the gym and participating in exercise or movement. I don't want to have pain or feel like I need to warm up to work out with my kids. If a 5K trail run pops up and you guys are like, hey, we're going to do this thing, do you want to do it? Yeah, sure. I want to know that I have the ability to do it and do it in such a way that it's not going to wreck me or that I'm going to have to spend 3 days recovering from it or something like that.
Yeah.
Another one is I want to know at any given time that if I want to go snow skiing, that I can do that. And so there's these things that I just innately know that I enjoy and I want to have the ability to do it any time. So it's not for getting stronger, putting on lean mass, or anything like that. It's just, this is what I do. I want to be active. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So let's, just so we could be clear with people,
physical freedom, physical sovereignty. There you go. There's a great description.
Physical sovereignty. Ooh, sovereign state of fitness.
There you go.
So, in your mind, I'm assuming that you have a preferred and a non-preferred way in which somebody would want to approach you about doing the open, doing a 5K, doing a Ragnar, doing a triathlon, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The preferred way would say, I want to do this because I can, and I'm not looking to perform well in it, but it's just something that I have the ability to do, so I'm going to do it.
Mm.
With some caveats thrown in there. Not preferred would be I want to train for this, and I want to get this time, and I want to get this score, and I want to perform this well because this is what I did last year, and make it more about performance and getting wrapped up almost with their score. Could that be one way? So what would be, I guess the way I'm trying to frame this question is, what would be a preferred way you'd want somebody to approach you or not about doing something like the open or some sort of event, and what's a non-preferred way?
So I would disagree that there's a preferred or non-preferred way. The preferred way is just to have a conversation. The non-preferred way is to say nothing and then assume that like I was a mind reader, and we kind of talked about this last time. This is why we really believe in sitting down one-on-one, having conversations, stretching things out, because it does allow for the nuance to come out. So what's the preferred way? Just let me know, and then we'll set up, time to sit down. And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, I've got to invest time. You said set up a time, and I've got to sit down. And yeah, that's how human beings relate to one another, and how, we talked about last time, the bridge between where you are and where you want to go is a relationship, aka coach, right? So that's the role that we play. So what's the preferred way is let's just first have a conversation. And so the reason why this question really matters so much in a good way to me, when we say, yeah, that's not the reason that they joined necessarily. Let's just say that they joined for a body composition goal, because this is a really common one. They joined because they want to improve their body composition. They've been here for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and now they heard about this thing called the Open, right? Or let's say that they've been here for 5 years. They've done the Open, but we know, because we've had conversations, we've sat down and done these things, and we know that the goal is still to improve body composition. But then the Open comes around, and it's like the shiny object. Oh, I want to do this. Can goals change? Yes, absolutely. But the coach's role is to not just take it at face value and say, oh, well, no, but that's not why they came in, but they sat down and they told me their goal changed, and you just take it at that. And it's like, okay, did you really sit down and have the conversation with them about, hey, are you okay with taking this detour to pursue this athletic thing or this performance thing, understanding that it is going to take you several steps back from what let's call it your primary or your main goal is? Because it will, most assuredly so. So can it change? Yes. But the coach's role is to make sure that you're not continually chasing shiny object syndrome. And so I know that people that are not watching this, if you're just listening, you can't really see what I'm about to do from a visual perspective. But the thing that I like to say is, if somebody is chasing, let's just call it again, body composition goal, and they see somebody else in class doing, butterfly pull-ups, and it's, your path is to do this, but every time you turn around, you catch the client that you're working with looking at this, oh, I want to do this. Your role is, no, you said this, but no, you said this. It's to pull them back and to make sure that they are doing this for them, that it's not, to chase or to be caught up in the comparison. Well, so-and-so is doing this, so I feel like I should be at that point. So can goals change? Yeah, absolutely, as you go through. But what I would encourage people to do is just go after one thing, trust in the process, make your headway towards that, get to that goal, and then set up the new one. I shared this quote several podcasts ago, but it's so worth it. And I do actually think about this one all the time. I believe it was Steve Jobs. I have to go back and check, but he said, people overestimate what they can get done in 1 year and underestimate what they can get done in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I know a year for some people sounds like it's a really long time, and in so many cases it feels like 2020 drug on forever. But then there are other times when I'm like, man, it felt like just yesterday we had to close the physical location of the gym. And that was almost a year ago now. Yeah,
it's going to be March next week.
Yeah, so much has happened, and it was so fast in certain cases. I went to Snap there like that, but it didn't work, and so the effect was kind of lost. So goals can change. Yes, that is the expectation, because you achieve a goal, and it's not like, oh, I nailed it, and then you just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
You do want to, try and pursue new challenges, because that is how we get better as people. A coach's role, though, is to make sure, to balance support and challenge, right? Support you in the goals that you want, but also challenge you in such a way that it's going to keep you moving towards it, but also challenge you like psychologically to say, yeah, I know you see this shiny object thing, a new program, a new piece of equipment, a new pair of wraps, a new meal plan thingamajig. It's like, if you're following something that is still gaining you over the long term positive momentum towards where you want to go, I would stick with it.
Yeah, right? I think that's something that's so overlooked with people that are constantly, try different programs, or try different pieces of equipment, or try different this, that, or the other. And to take it from the very top level and I don't like drawing a ton of comparisons to these people, but you can look at someone like elite level athletes that change coaches or change programs after every year, and you're not seeing them improve.
Yeah.
And you're seeing them get hurt year after years because they overestimate it. It's like, it's been a year, I'm not seeing the results I want, so I'm going to switch. That also leads me back to, I like saying this term, I've been saying this for a couple years, is that it smells like poop everywhere you go, check your shoes. It's like, because
I love that.
If you're walking
so
around,
much.
yeah, if you're walking around everywhere and going, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm not getting better at anything I do. It's like, well, maybe the programs aren't the problem. Like, I tried that program for 2 months. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something that's so overlooked, and I think that's why, especially, we can speak to the people that have been here for, whether it's a month or 2 months or 2 years or 5 years or 7 or 9 years, that like they've stuck to the program and they've seen positive results across that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get into how progress doesn't look like this, right?
It's not linear, right?
It's not linear. It's very much, I guess you could say it's undulating, right? But it's still going up no matter what.
Yeah, the trend, if you zoom out far enough, is going to look, the more you zoom out, so the bigger timeline that you look at, it's going to look like it's linear. But the more and more and more that you zoom in, hence the 1 year, 10-year thing, right? The 10-year view looks like I'm making progress linearly.
Yeah.
The 1 year view looks like, holy crap, for 3 months you moved backwards.
What do you say to people that want to do the Open or a race or something because they are looking for that competitive outlet that they used to get doing something else?
Well, I don't know that I say anything to them. I probably am just going to ask a bunch of questions. Like, what is this going to fulfill within you would be one of them. What was it from your competitive days, or I jokingly refer to it as like the glory days. Like, what was it that you got from that? Was it the feeling of winning? Was it the feeling of enthusiasm for the task at hand? Because those are all right. There's been plenty of elite level athletes in every sport who are probably top 10 of all time that have never won a championship. So for them, they certainly weren't, the fulfillment they were getting was not winning championships. For Tom Brady, though, the fulfillment he's getting is just collecting rings, right? Like,
yeah.
But, possibly, I'm just like, guesstimating at that, but like you could say that with him. So what is it? And that's why it's not enough to just say, I want to do this. And then the coach says, okay, let's do that. Because that's actually not going to lead to long-term fulfillment.
Right.
In 99.9 cases out of 100. There's going to be the odd duck. Somebody's got the question. I think we should probably just rename the podcast to Outliers Not Welcome. That's just a half joking, but everyone's got the outlier story of, well, so and so said this and did this. Yeah, but you're not so and so, and that's okay. So what would I say? I would just do a lot of conversing with this person, figure out why, and again, I know this sounds so trite, but it really boils down to the deepest of intentions. This isn't a popular opinion, and it's not, it's not going to sell memberships to the gym. It's not going to bring more people in, but it's honest and it's the truth. Is like nobody has a body composition goal to just get to that goal. Like arbitrarily, the most common thing, and this is not just from the anecdotal evidence that we've had being open as a gym for 10 years or me coaching for 20, but it's working with 850 gyms around the world, all the coaches that go along with it. It's, you sit down with somebody and what's your goal? I want to lose 20 pounds. Like we joke, but like it's just such an arbitrary figure.
Yeah.
That's not the truest intention. And trust me, I've had very deep, difficult, uncomfortable conversations with people where you challenge them on that, and it's not pleasant, but that's really what you need to get down to is like, what is the deepest intention? And you could do the 5 whys. Okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. Why? Well, because then I can fit into my clothes better. Well, why does that matter to you? Well, that and you just keep going down. Some people don't respond well to that because then it feels like you're treating them like a child. I've had that experience where you try, let me try this out, and it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
But again, what it boils down to is like, what is the truest intention?
Funny enough, there's an art to that coaching. I say that, but even though, one, that is the title of the podcast too, it's like there is an art to being able to have those conversations and ask people those questions without them feeling like they're being attacked.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that you say it's like it's never a body composition goal, it's always a weight goal. So for example, like you said, somebody comes in and they want to lose 20 pounds. And I've said to people before when we've been having those tough conversations or tough, whatever you define as tough conversations. And I've said, well, what if you were the same way right now? Or what if you were 5 pounds lighter? Like instead of 20, what if you were only a quarter of that lighter? Right? So 5 pounds lighter, but your body composition completely changed. And 99.9% of people, I'd even go as far as say every single person I've ever asked that would be like, yeah, I'd be totally fine with that. Which shows that it's just that number on the scale is so arbitrary. I see you're looking at the InBody guy. It's so arbitrary, is so, I don't want to say pointless, but somewhere along the lines, society got wrapped up with how much personal worth and value they've put into that number, that it's become such a unique metric for measuring somebody's health. When it's like, well, say you are 200 pounds or 300 pounds, but there's a big difference between being 300 pounds and 12% body fat and being 300 pounds at 32% body fat.
Right.
It's like, would you be happy if you were still 300 pounds and all of your biomarkers improved and you were, 12% body fat? And most people would be like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not women. I don't know if anyone wants to be 300 pounds, 12% body fat. But, I think you guys know what I'm trying to say, but it's, that number on the scale is so arbitrary. Now, it is a good guiding factor, but being able to understand what else goes into health along the lines of skeletal muscle mass and body fat and total body water and stuff like that is way more important than total body weight.
Yeah, so I shared with you, and I've shared it on the podcast since January. I'm a big believer in continual learning and education things. So I'm going through some continuing ed right now, and every Tuesday for about 2 to 2.5 hours, I'm on a call with about another 100 coaches from around the world, and we've gotten really deep into the weeds on a lot of this stuff from a research, scientific perspective, and then also from an experience perspective. So many of these coaches have been, there's a lot of coaches like myself and the leader of this group that have been in the trenches coaching for 2+ decades. There's a lot of them that have been in the game for like less than 6 months, and it's really interesting to see the perspectives longtime coaches have versus, you know, newer coaches have. I know you and I talk about this a lot, but yeah, you're exactly right that there's these kind of ideals that have just been, and I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but like there's just these ideals that have been like embedded in our heads of what from an outward appearance is representative of health and vitality and things like that. And you know, when you really get into studying, I don't want to say the science of vitality because that doesn't actually exist, but if you take the time for yourself to define what it would mean to pursue something like vitality, and not look at clinical definitions or Google definitions, but like for yourself, you know, what would that look like? You know, how much would body composition play a role in that? And I'll give you a great for instance. If you were to just imagine yourself, if you've got a body composition goal right now, that you are at that goal. So I was looking at this InBody poster, and it's of two different body types. They're the same weight, the same height, the same BMI, ironically. But from a body fat percentage, it is markedly different. And these two, you know, if you saw these two people standing on the street, you know, you wouldn't even think that they were the same person. So let's just imagine, for instance, that you are the ideal version physically of yourself. What else do you think that, you know, a healthy, vital person kind of has? Is it the biomarkers that go along with it, cholesterol levels, common blood markers, cortisol, testosterone, all these, you know, blood level things that you can look at? Okay, so let's say that goes into it. What about mental acuity? Does that go into it? You know, and if so, then what is the trade-off between really pursuing an aggressive body composition goal going to do to your, you know, mental acuity? And there is a lot of really, really interesting research about that, and something that we're learning on the back end of, I don't know if this is safe to say, like on the back end of COVID, but you know, one of the things that we're learning is, you know, mental health and being locked up, and yeah, we're about to get censored on the Facebook, but you know, it's just those things. So think about it from a holistic standpoint of what would that look like for you, you know?
Yeah.
If you were to snap your fingers and you have all these faculties about you, you know, and then okay, what you should work backwards from with a coach is you take that information. Hey, it's not even so much about the body comp, or maybe it is, but it's also in concert with all these other things. Okay, so now we can build an even better plan. And that's why I go back to the conversation that I want to have with folks, no matter what their goal is. I want to be able to ask those questions, presumably because a lot of people are not asking themselves these questions when they're on their own, even if they even get time on their own. And how can I say that? Because I'm sure people are like, no, we're asking ourselves. Well, let me tell you something. When I'm having conversations with you guys, you're not. Because when I ask you these questions, I can see that it's the first time this question has been asked.
Yeah.
You know? Something that you hit on earlier, and this really leads us into like the next question or the next topic that I wanted to make sure that we covered today is, you know, you do as a coach have to be comfortable having these potentially difficult conversations. And I like to think that I have, not with everybody, but with the majority of people that I interact with here at the gym on a daily basis, I have earned the trust that if I say something very passionately, that they know that it comes from a place of genuine love and care. And it's not that I'm being judgmental or I'm coming down on them or I'm fighting against them, but it's just that like I really have a lot that I feel like I have left to teach with my time on this earth. And there are some things that I'm not going to bend on, you know, and the pursuit of health and vitality is a big one. So something that we got into talking about with the group, I forget exactly who all was here last week when we were talking about it. I know Melissa Z was here, Bart was here, I know you were here. Smith was here, yeah. Bart and Charity's son that works out with us in the morning times too. And one of the things that we talked about is this idea of maximal physical potential. And so what is it? How does it fit into what we do daily? And why is this something that I should care about? And I can't, visually show people exactly like what the chart is, but just imagine in your head, if you will, like an X and Y axis. And on the X axis, that goes from left to right. That is going to be representative of time. And then on the Y axis, the part that goes up and down is what we're calling is your maximum physical potential. So if you, go up, let's just say to the top of your Y axis and just kind of draw a line, like everybody's got a different maximal physical potential. So like what you can do physically with your body, right? And the idea is that it is very admirable and worthy to pursue getting to your maximal physical potential. And so that's kind of like what it is. Now, how does it fit into what we do daily is that our belief is that you should, because it is admirable and worthy, pursue over a lifetime achieving that maximal physical potential. So that's what it is. That's how it fits into what we do daily from like a programming perspective, a conversation perspective. Why is it important? Is because without the knowledge of like what that is, it doesn't really give you great context into what you were doing on a day-to-day basis and how does that serve you getting to that point. Do all those things kind of make sense?
Yeah. Where does it get lost in translation? Because I know a big part of the conversation that we were all having is talking about how doing things like thrusters and pull-ups and squat snatches and squat cleans and clean and jerks and all that stuff is fun. What,
yeah.
Like that, and we kept asking why. Why is that fun? What makes that fun? Why does that, we'll say that type of training, not really in line with working towards your max physical potential?
Yeah. So okay, let's just say for I wish I could visually show everybody this, but let's just say that on this X and Y axis that you plot a point, pretty much close to where those two meet. So young age, you're at a young maximal physical potential, okay? And then let's just say a little bit down, you go up to the top. And so there's a really steep slope from where you began to where you ended up at your max physical potential. The steeper that slope is going upward, the steeper that your slope is going to be coming downward.
It's like a bell curve almost.
Well, so if it's a really steep up, and I know people that are just listening can't see this, but imagine that I'm not going up at exactly a 90-degree angle, but just say that it's a 75-degree angle.
Right.
Okay? You're going to have a really sharp decline as well. And I'll get into it, more in just a second. But like, as sharp as your curve is upward is equal to, not like scientifically speaking, but just in general terms, it's going to be matched by a sharp decline on the back end. Does that kind of make sense? So, it's funny because I was actually talking to Mandy because I really believe that one of the ways that you can get better at communication is continuing to try to teach the same concept to multiple people in multiple different ways. So I was actually drawing this out. And yes, people, this is the stuff that Mandy has to deal with from me. Mm-hmm. This is how, my brain just never shuts down on this. But anyways, I was drawing this on a whiteboard and I was kind of explaining to her the conversation. And so I drew that out and I drew the really sharp incline and decline. And I kind of looked back at her and she said, can I say something real fast? And I said, yeah, what do you think? And she goes, well, that really reminds me of what a max physical potential curve looks like for an athlete. And I was like, I knew I loved you, and that is why I married you. So and that's really what that looks like. So the job, and we talked about this before, but like the job of a professional athlete is to exhaust all of the resources that you have as aggressively as possible because you care about winning. And you actually came up with a beautiful visual for this is, you know, if you were to go and look at basketball or football players that played at the highest level for 10 plus years and now they're into their retirement age at 32 or 35, right? Like, number one, 10 years as a professional athlete is a really long time, actually.
Yeah.
Like, and I know people are, well, but Tom Brady, he looks like he's 23.
Outlier.
Yeah, outlier. Exactly. So don't give me that. Show me the 95% of other people that were professionals. And, you know, basketball players look like they're walking around on glass knees in quicksand, you know?
Yeah.
Shoot, I mean, you look at somebody like Ronnie Coleman, who's the best bodybuilder of all time. He's, you know, in a wheelchair, you know? And he's getting surgeries, you know, every other day. So, you know, yeah, that curve is representative. So, bringing it back full circle, where does that fit into, you know, what we're doing now? Is because if the more that your training looks like that of somebody who is going after max physical potential as quickly as possible, the more that you are taken away from resources that would be useful to you later in life, right? And so really what we're trying to do is extend that curve out as far as we can to get you up to your max physical potential, because you can only get there one time. After you get there one time, it's just a decline until the ultimate decline, which is death, all right? So once you reach it, you're trending downwards. And I know that's maybe hard for some people to hear, but after you've achieved that, you're going to be trending downwards.
You can't hang out there.
Yeah.
Your body cannot sustain hanging out there.
Yeah. So if you use up those resources to get there, i.e. if you train like you're trying to run your head through a wall every single day, then you're going to bite the bullet on the back end sooner than you think. And we've talked about this for months and months and months. Versus if you just think about, okay, what are my capabilities today? I want to challenge myself to do something that is just like slightly beyond my capabilities. The reason being is that now I can continue having upward positive trending progress over a lifetime. Versus if you see a really steep upward trajectory, you've exhausted all those resources. Now it's taken away from your ability to make progress in any other area.
Yeah, something that Melissa said that kind of illustrates that point a little bit more is, she said, you know, a goal of mine is I want to be 75 years old and I want to be able to deadlift 200 pounds. Right? And we're like, awesome. Like,
I love that when she said that.
That's good. Like, that's what you shoot for. And to kind of flip that on its head is like, how many 75-year-olds, or we'll just say not even 75-year-olds, have you ever heard of that say, oh yeah, I used to be able to do that in the gym, or I used to be able to, like, you don't want to be 75 looking back at your 45-year-old self and saying, look what I used to be able to do. Now, like, with age, there's going to be some parts of that that's going to happen, but I think that's where we come in, trying to flip the script a little bit and saying to people that, hey, it's a really cool goal. It's really cool deadlifting 200 pounds at 45 years old. You know what's even cooler? Deadlifting 200 pounds at 75 years old.
Yeah.
Like, still be, like, now, okay, when you're supposed to, at the age you're supposed to, because in a perfect world, at 75 years old, you're only 75% of the way there. Like,
yeah.
You got a heck of a lot of time left, at least 25 more years in a perfect world, right?
I'm living over 100, just for people that are wondering. Yeah.
I'm going 103.
103.
I will make it to the year 2100.
Think about that. You got 80 years to go, man.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Sometimes I think about it and it actually psychs me out a little bit. I'm like, imagine doing 4 more of what I've already done.
Yeah.
Like 23.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a little bit less, but that's kind of how I think about it. But yeah, so I love when Melissa said that, is because it's like, yeah, deadlifting 200 is pretty cool. Is it And a question you can ask people is like, would you give up deadlifting 500 pounds or 600 pounds over the next 5 years to be able to deadlift 200 when you're 75?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you know that if you can deadlift 500 or 600 pounds in the next 5 years, at 75, you're probably going to need help lifting 80.
Yep.
And so that's something to kind of keep in mind. And now, we're not saying like when you're in here, every single rep you're doing is I'm thinking about deadlifting 200 pounds when you're 75 years old. But it's working out, as you said, with intention.
Right.
Is when you're coming in here, is it reflecting the rest of your life how you want it to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you do something that is doo-doo. My kids would laugh at that. When you do something that is where you have to go deep into the nervous system, and the way to think about this is, if you get done with a workout and you feel like a blob of goo for like 2 hours plus afterwards, we've all had that feeling. You know, that is the feeling that I'm talking about, is when you go deep into the nervous system. Think about that. So the whole control center of your body is your brain, and it is in charge of your nervous system. So if you put a tremendous amount of strain on that, because you go deep, like you dig deep into that from just a physical training exercise standpoint, you're taken away from potential faculties later in life. Like everybody, I can speak to this too, I'm sure you can, everybody's got the story of relatives who decline cognitively as you age. I don't have any intention to do that. And I'm not saying that the reason they did that is because of this, but if I know that my exercise habit, like think about that, we're just talking about exercise. If my exercise is taking away from my cognitive potential later in life, I want to make sure that that's not happening. And so when you go deep into the nervous system and you feel like a blob of goo, you are actually aging yourself faster than if you don't.
So I'm finishing up. I actually have in about 3 days I'll be finished with
Why Zebras. Yes.
Yeah, Why Zebras. And so I've been reading 10 pages a day, but it's like 417 or 418 pages. So I'm taking my time getting through it. So I'll be done here in about 3 days, and I'm in the final chapter, and it's about managing stress. And we won't get into stress; we've gotten into that before. But it talks about successful aging, and you know, what are some trends when you see somebody that might be 60, 70, 80 years old, still flexing their biceps, still deadlifting 200 pounds, still in good shape, and that's considered successful aging. Is where the normal cognitive or physiological declines that you see in an elderly person don't occur in these people. And they tie it into stress and a lot of other things. But you have to remember, the same thing I keep thinking of is when you keep saying ramming your head into a wall. Like when you are just kicking the crap out of yourself every single day you come in and you do a workout, that's a mini stress response every single day.
Yeah.
And this is just still fresh in my head, but the author, Sapolsky, he outlines an example of, they've done studies and they've analyzed that actors and actresses that have won Oscars, I don't know if you remember this from the book, actors and actresses that have won Oscars on average have lived 4 years longer than actors and actresses that were just nominated but didn't win the Oscar. So if a really stressful, good stress event like winning an Oscar can improve your life and make you live longer, what are little microdoses of stress doing to you, like ramming your head into the wall, kicking the crap out of your workout, feeling like goo, like you said, like just feeling awful, not being able to function on the day-to-day? What are those little microdoses doing to you in terms of a lifespan? Is it 5 minutes? If it is 5 minutes, add those workouts up. If you're doing 300 of them a year, you're taking hours, eventually days, eventually months, eventually years off of your life in the pursuit of doing something that's more fun, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So that's kind of similar to what you were talking about, but it just reminded me of trying to draw the comparisons, and again, you could say they're outliers. They're not only actors, which are such a small percentage, but they're actors that have won Oscars. But think if eustress, which is good stress, can help improve your life and help you live longer by getting rid of distress. Like, think what distress is doing to you, which is those little micro doses of kicking the crap out of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what it boils down to, I was talking to Steph about this, I think last week maybe, and something that I said, because I had this thought a little bit, a little while ago, is exercise should serve you. It shouldn't burn you.
Oh.
So what I mean by that is just it encapsulates everything that we've talked about. Is it should really serve what your goals for your life are. Like, fitness is really the medium that connects you, your ability to serve your highest priorities, your values, things like that, right? And if it's not doing that, then okay, we've got some rethinking to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a fun conversation that day, and I thought that maybe I'll make a little whiteboard drawing and I'll post it into the comments for people so they can kind of get the picture. But just know this, that if you go after max physical potential very aggressively, burn up all your resources, on the back end of that, after you hit that peak, you're going to have a really, really sharp decline. Versus if it's just a nice and steady, like we were talking about, if you zoom out on the 10-year or your case 80-year plan, it's just going to be like a nice steady incline and then a steady decline down.
Right.
Right?
I guess because it sounds like we're about to sign off, especially because we're at the end of our outline for today.
Yeah.
But to illustrate that just a little bit more is, if it burns you, you're doing it on the point. So Stephanie said, it's funny. I think people could be like, well, what does that sharp spike to hitting your max physical potential and then that decline look like? And then spiking again and declining is like, this can identify with every single person in here. You've been working out and you've been crushing it and you keep coming in. And you're probably not doing your recovery as much as you should, but you're lifting and you're doing these metcons and you're crushing it. Boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden, boom, now you're out for 3 to 6 months because you have a back injury. And by out, I mean you're not doing the things you like to do, right? You're injured, right? Your back, your hip, your knee, your ankle, your shoulder, your wrist, something hurts, right? What was the point of doing all that other stuff?
Yeah.
And if you ask every single person, you say, was it worth going heavier on that lift? Was it worth doing the extra chest to bar, because now you're dealing with elbow tendonitis for the last 5 months that I've been dealing with. Like, was it worth doing that chest to bar workout for me to deal with this?
Stop talking about me.
I was trying to talk about myself. Like, was it worth me doing that chest to bar workout because now I'm dealing with this elbow tendonitis? Heck no. Like, that's what it looks like. Is, yeah, I might have had awesome chest to bar that day. I remember the day like yesterday. It was awesome. But I haven't done chest to bar since that workout. I've not done one since that workout.
Yeah.
And is that worth it? No way. I'd rather be able to do chest to bar when I'm 75.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Strict.
Think about that. Yeah.
Unbroke, upside down too. Yeah. But anyway, I think hopefully that can draw it back to help what it looks like for us. Like what coming in here, what does it look like? And we can all feel it coming on.
Yeah.
We can all feel like, oh, something's wonky, something's going. I probably shouldn't do this. And when that happens, talk to your coach.
Yep.
And be like, hey, something feels. Gabriel did that with me. Gabriel's one of our newer members. He's been here about 2.5 months now, and he said, hey, something's feeling wonky, and so we made some adjustments. And today he was like, all right, feels awesome, feel good.
Perfect.
So
yep.
He's not out of the gym.
Yep.
Stephanie says, I'm learning the hard way at 33 and taking a long break to reflect on what I really want now, since I'm not the same Steph who could smash it and compete, etc. And she was babyless, so yeah.
So I think that's such an important point that she brings up, and this ties back into the first question that we were talking about is, can goals change? I mean, think about like how her life has changed in the last, 2 years, right? You know, and it's not even just from an aging perspective, but it's just from, you know, she got married, she now has a child, like, she changed jobs, you know, from what she was doing for a career for a really, really long time. So this is, you know, this is the value that we can bring as coaches to be able to say, you know, like, for instance, if I was working, you know, one-on-one with her, you know, as her coach, and she had just made that significant life change, right, to go from working as a full-time educator, you know, to not, that's an opportunity to step back and say, hey, you know, obviously priorities are shifting, you know, and we're just going to have a conversation. I'm not trying to inject any of my values or anything like that. I'm just trying to, you know, investigate, like, hey, how are things changing, you know, and figuring out what is going to fit with her new life. She gets married. I've been through that. I know, like, I'm not saying stress is a bad thing, but like a life change happens. Like, that's as good as it can be, potentially, right? But it is a stressor. So how does that change your priorities, your values? You now want to make sure that you have time to spend with your husband, you know, and do all these things. You've got a home that you guys are fixing up. So all this matters. So that's why I don't want to go 6, 8, 9, 10 months, you know, with people. They change a job, they get married, now they have a baby, you know. So how does that change? Like, now I can only speak from the guy's perspective, but I know it changes, you know, what your priorities and values are tremendously, you know. So, you know, if I was working with her and she came to me after all these things happened, and like that's the first conversation, and I didn't have conversation with her after each of those things, and now I'm like, all right, the open's here, you ready to crush it? And it's like, what? Are you kidding me? I've changed jobs, I got married, I have a baby now. Like, how would I feel as a coach? And more importantly, like, how would her trust in me just completely erode at that point? So this is why it's so important to have conversation. And not to say that she might not want to still go after the open from a performance perspective. That's not for me to put upon her. It's just my job to sit and ask questions and figure out, okay, how does this actually fit in with what you're recognizing as your true values and priorities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your heart out? 11:30?
Yes.
Nice.
2 minutes. Dos minutos.
Ooh.
That's Spanish for 2 minutes, Mark. That's your Spanish lesson for the day.
Sorry, I don't speak Italian. All right. That's all I got, man. We covered 2 topics in quite some time, in an hour and 8 minutes. So pretty good.
That was solid today. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You have to tag me or text me later to remind me. I'll draw that little, or maybe I can do it real quick on the whiteboard and we can post it in the group so people can see Mac's physical potential and, you know, like a good versus a not so good example of it. Cool. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you
for everybody that watched and interacted and gave us thumbs up, commented, all that good jazz.
If you're on iTunes, leave a 5-star written review. If you're on SoundCloud, listen on iTunes and leave a 5-star written review. If you were listening at all, thank you very much. If you were watching, thank you guys very much. We will see you next time, and Josh is going to do the outro yet again. Bye.